on the Texas A&M Sports Network. From Learfield, welcome to the Aggie Football Hour, brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, a leader in agricultural financing. Also brought to you in part by Coors Light, Choose Chill, and Gig 'em Aggies. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly. Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Visit Rudy's.com to find real Texas barbecue near you. Twisted Tea, hard iced tea for the 12th man. Please drink responsibly. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas. Through it all. And by Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. Now, the Aggie Football Hour, brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, a leader in agricultural financing. Here's the voice of the Aggies, Andrew Monaco.
Howdy, Ags. Thanks for coming once again on this Wednesday, Rudy's 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. It is our second Aggie Football Hour with head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Howdy, Coach.
Howdy. How we doing?
Anything going on?
Well, yeah, a few things. You know, trying to get back on track and get these boys headed in the right direction. It's been a really good week.
Let's get things started with Saturday. And your thoughts now that you've had Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for that. Looking back at Notre Dame, was there something that stands out? And as you look back, what were your impressions?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, listen, it was a heavyweight showdown, and we knew it was going to be. We knew it was going to be two really good teams, and I think we put ourselves in position to have a chance down the stretch, and unfortunately, we didn't make the plays that we needed to make in the fourth quarter to win the game. And sometimes that's football, right? And sometimes it plays out like that. And obviously, you know, you go in and you would examine everything that you could have done better, could have done differently, everything your kids could have done better, could have done differently, and you go back to work, and that's what you got to do. There's
a saying when I was in the NBA that I hadn't heard when I was younger, but it just absolutely applies, and I think it applies here. I don't know what I don't know. Well, before Saturday, there were things you don't know. Now you do know, and now you can correct their mistakes or reinforce the things that went well, correct?
Yeah, for sure. And every time you go out there, you have to learn. And I think it's been proven over the history of college football that teams improve throughout the year. They get better from game 1 to game 12. That's obviously the mission every season. And, you know, you hope that you make enough plays in the beginning to put yourself in position to fix it all at 1-0. We didn't do that. And so we have to pick it up, and that's what we got to do.
We were in your office when we were recording something, and you said you had talked with your entire staff, and you said, here's what's going to happen if we win, and here's what's going to happen. You were so prescient about that. You knew exactly what that was going to be, but that is the society that we're in. If you win, you're a dark horse national championship contender, right?
Yeah. I mean,
and if you lose, you said Elko's not the guy.
Yeah, I mean, we said it the second we started fall camp, it was going to be prepare for a season of tremendous emotional swings because we're going to play some really high impact games. We're going to play some national stage games, and if we win, there's going to be this unbelievable overreaction that we probably don't deserve. And if we lose, there's probably going to be this unbelievable overreaction that we probably don't deserve. And we just have to prepare for it. And I think one of the things we've been talking about behind the scenes for a long time with our guys is here's our real fans. Right, our real
Correct.
Fans are the fans that show up at Kyle Field, the 90,000 that will be there at 11:30 Saturday morning when we play McNeese. And stay away from social media, stay away from that stuff because it's not healthy. It's not healthy for our guys. It's not healthy for them to go through that. And so hopefully they're heeding that message.
If it were a one-game season, you would prepare differently. You're building a program, not one Saturday, right? You're building this for Saturdays, this coming Saturday and Saturdays in the future, are you not?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people want to make more about it than it is. We did everything we could to win that football game, you know, and we made mistakes for sure. Coaches, players, everybody. I think that happens win or lose on Saturdays, and at the end of the day, our net result just wasn't positive enough, right? And so you examine it, and when you go out there first time through it with your whole organization, you know, you learn a lot. You do. You learn a lot about your coaches, your players, everything, and then how they act in certain situations, how they respond in certain situations, and we're still learning how to get the best product out of these guys, and that's just where we are, and so we've got to continue to stress that.
You said something Monday I thought was really interesting. You wanted everybody on the staff to look in the mirror. There will be no finger pointing, but look right in the mirror, right? And that was everyone. You meant everyone.
Yeah, I think if you want growth in life comes internal. It always does, right? And it's real easy to say, we lost, but it was because of Andrew's radio call. Andrew's radio call really messed up our quarterback in the fourth quarter, and that's why we lost, right? But if that's where we go looking for a result or looking for blame, we never improve, right? I knew he would, but proud of Connor the way he stood in front of the media Monday, right? And owned what happened. Like, I got up in front of the media and we owned what happened. We didn't get it done. It doesn't make us bad people. It doesn't make us not Aggies. It doesn't make us not committed to having a great season. But we didn't get it done, and then that's just what happened.
That's leadership, is it not?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. It's got to be from me, and it's got to go all the way down through our organization.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit because I like one thing that he said. Next pitch, it's a really good mentality. If you throw a strike, you know what? It's 0-1. You got to throw another one. Right? If you throw a ball, okay, it's 1-0. Right now it's one ball, no strikes after 1 week. He gets a chance to throw more strikes on Saturday, right?
No, there's no doubt. And I said this to our guys yesterday after practice because I think this is the reality of the sport. I said, I wasn't around when any of you decided to play football, but here's football. It's a really, really hard life because you're going to put everything you have in it just to give yourself a chance. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and you have to own that. And then you got to do it again, and there's no guarantee that it's going to get better. But the only way it gets better is if you put everything you have into it. Mm-hmm. And you just got to keep doing that. And ultimately, over time, you just beat the door down because you're so persistent about our culture, our work ethic, how we're going to go about our process, how we're going to go about things, that ultimately you finally kick through that fourth quarter, you get that win, it becomes routine, it becomes natural, and it just becomes part of your DNA. And unfortunately, it didn't happen Saturday, but I know it will.
McNeese on this Saturday at Kyle Field, 11:45 is the kick. We'll join you at 10:30 with our St. Joseph Health pregame show. We will continue with more of the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. The Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, the largest agricultural lender in Texas. Capital Farm Credit, together, we're better. We continue from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. We thank you for joining us, not just here, all along our network as well. Head coach Mike Elko, you knew this question was coming. Here you go. Travis, class of 67, said, Coach, when a number one starter's not performing up to his ability, what's the problem with giving another player an opportunity to show his worth?
Yeah, I addressed this in the press conference, and I really believe this. There's always this thought that you just move on. Right, and we've evaluated the quarterback competition, which is obviously directly where this one's headed. We've evaluated about 1,000 quarterback reps since I got hired, and it was a competition, and Connor did win it. And I don't know that it's in anybody's best interest to just pull the plug on a kid the second things aren't going well. And I just don't know that that's human nature. I don't know that anybody wants to get fired on their job the first time it doesn't go exactly the way they hoped it would. It doesn't get a second day, right? And we're dealing with 18 to 21-year-olds, and you do the best you can. And we felt like Connor was going to give us a chance to win the game. I did, all the way to the end. And honestly, with the game tied, the best throw he made, one of the best throws he made all night was to Le'Veon Moss, who unfortunately didn't stretch forward, and we wound up half a yard short, right? And so all the way through that last throw before they made the drive to take the lead, I still felt like Connor was going to go out there and put it together and give us a drive, and he had just led us down the field to tie it. And so, it really never crossed our mind to go in a different direction.
He talked about the footwork. It jumped out to him when he looked at the film. You also mentioned that sometimes the feet were good, sometimes they weren't. Going forward, will he now identify maybe on a throw and then correct it because, wow, that didn't feel right, like it hadn't happened before? So
yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of people have asked, well, why doesn't he just correct it on the spot? And I think a little bit of it is, I always make these baseball analogies, right? But you can watch your swing in game and see that it's not going exactly how you want, but it's not the easiest thing to fix in game, and so, you're trying to get him to settle down. But until you can just sit down in the comfort of the film room and really like slow it all down, it's hard to make those adjustments. There were times where his feet were good. There was times where he sat in there and he delivered the ball the way he would. I think there were other times where he just got a little bit antsy with the pocket, and I don't know if that was, first time back from injury, or if it was something in his brain in the lead up, with all of the talk about the Notre Dame defensive line, and I don't know where it came from, because we certainly haven't seen it going into the game, but I think he's identified it as what he needs to do to fix to move forward.
He said on Monday the pocket was money. He made sure to say that the offensive line was on him, that he got jumpy, for lack of a better phrase, right? The offensive line, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think they made strides, and we're not going to sit here and say anything was at the level we wanted it to be, and they certainly wouldn't say that. And I think, when we talk about, what do we have to do to get better? We for sure have to be a better pass game. Right, like everybody's aware of that. That's something we have to do. Well, it goes back to the ownership. So the offensive line says, well, we didn't block well enough. Like, yes, we were better. Yes, we were improved, but we still didn't block well enough, right? And the wideouts ran routes at times and got open and created separation, but they come back and say we didn't get open enough, right? And Connor delivered the ball well sometimes, but not, and if everybody looks at it that way, that's, again, where the growth comes. Right. So I was happy with the O-line. I thought they made strides, but I also think there were things that we certainly could have done a lot better and left some things on the field, too.
No team is going to be the same in September as they are in October, November, and you're hoping to keep playing in December, right? But you've got to see that improvement, correct?
For sure.
Even after a win.
Yeah, well, and that was part of that initial conversation, right? And we were going to have a task on our hand again, no matter what happened Saturday night, because we were still going to be a team that had only played one game in this system ever, right? And so no matter what the ultimate result was, there was still going to be a lot of work to be made for us to get our goals and get where we want to get to. And so, I think we've got to continue on that trajectory, and I think we have. I think we've had a really good week of practice, and so.
Connor said, take what the defense gives you. What was Notre Dame taking away? And that's, you mentioned this in the run-up. It's a really good defense. What were they taking away?
Yeah, they challenge you because they get in your face coverage-wise, and everything is tight coverage, and they have a top 10 pick playing into the boundary corner, and he's a really good player. And they're able to lean the rest of the help kind of away from him, and so they kind of dare you to take your shots on him, which we tried a couple times unsuccessfully, and then everyone else seems to be leaning towards the other players, right? And so it feels like there's one clear isolated spot, and that's their best player, and then everything else is a little bit of lean help too, and so you're trying to create ways, and I think we kept trying to find different ways that we had going into the game that we were trying to recreate in the game and to get guys loose and get guys open. And then unfortunately when we did, we didn't deliver the ball. And so that's just kind of ultimately how it went.
Using the other sport analogy, kind of funneling someone to the shot blocker?
Yeah, for sure, right? And it's we've got a 7'2" guy in the middle, and let's run everything into him, and let's see if anyone can make it over top of him. And they've been in that system for a long time, and that's not an excuse, but that's a fact. And I think they're very comfortable playing in that system. And they certainly didn't surprise us with what they did, but they executed at a really, really high level.
Our next break. It's the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credits. We'll step aside. Come on back to Rudy's. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. The 12th Man Foundation is the official fundraising organization and ticket provider for Texas A&M Athletics. Support a 75-year legacy and help shape the future of Aggie Athletics by donating today at 12thmanfoundation.com. We continue with the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credits. And in this segment, I want to ask you, how in the heck did you keep a secret of not letting out that we're running out to power on Saturday?
Yeah, I
here.
So I didn't tell anybody. It was obviously something. Somebody asked me, like, who did I ask if they wanted power back? I was like, well, I didn't have to ask anyone. It was extremely well known that that's what everybody wanted. And so again, when we had the change in leadership, I thought it presented an opportunity to kind of get that going. It was obviously something when I was here as the defensive coordinator that was kind of a mainstay of Kyle Field. And so we kind of went about the process of figuring out what it would actually look like to try to get it back. And just sat on it. I think I probably lied to my own children about 100 times. Like, I think I looked my own child in the eye about 25 times and lied right to his face. That's how committed I was to making sure this thing didn't get out.
It's understandable, though, right? It's understandable. There was a reason for that. So what was the tunnel like? Because the players didn't know.
The players didn't know because then again, everyone would know. And so, yeah, it was a special day. It was, and it's a day I'll remember forever. And just all the way from the midnight yell and the turnout at the midnight yell to game day and the turnout at game day to, walking through the tunnel and hearing Kyle Field go crazy as we ran out onto the field. And, like I said in the press conference, it was the Aggies gave us an amazing day, and we deserved to give them a win, and we didn't. But we're going to commit to get that fixed.
After Spirit Walk, you come down to the tunnel and you circle the Lone Star logo at the 50. That had to have a lot of meaning, did it not?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, again, as we talk about like culture and bringing this thing together and doing it the way we want to do it. I think that's something that means a lot to us. And so it's a prayer circle that we have before the game. It's kind of the last thing we do as a team. We kind of circle up at midfield, and we'll do that every week. And that's just kind of how our preparation ends, and we kind of break it down and then let the team go and kind of do their own thing at that point.
Is that the last moment you have to yourself after that, before you go back up that tunnel and get the preparation? And do you need that time to yourself as part of your preparation for game day or game nights? Yeah,
that's always been my reflection. And so I did it when I was a defensive coordinator. Probably started all the way back when I was at Bowling Green. Was just like that. Field walk. I just like to walk the field, and I have a rhythm of songs that I play. It's the same songs. It's been the same song since 2009, and that's just kind of what it is for me. And that's just kind of my focus of okay, it's time. It's clear your head, get your mind right, and got to get ready to do this thing.
And you wore football Sarge. I love football Sarge. Are you kidding?
We wore football Sarge. Yeah, that was another one that was really. When I saw the old Sarge logos come out during the baseball season, that was something that I was like, yeah, we got to get one of those too. And so that was the other one that we kind of kept a little bit under wraps. And I actually saw, I don't know where the guy went, but there was a guy in here tonight who's got one of those old Sarge Adidas shirts on. It looked really good. So
those are great. They looked wonderful on you. And the white helmets.
The white helmets.
Traditional, right?
Yeah. And, we just want to, and for us, it's trying to blend tradition with this new age kid, right? And kids want to be a little bit different each week. We want to be traditional. Within tradition, there's a way to mix it up, right? And so it's as simple as, hey, 1 week we wear a white helmet, 1 week we wear a maroon helmet, right? We're still representing the tradition of Texas A&M, but it keeps it fresh and new for our kids. And you can mix and match maroon and white a lot of different ways to create some different combinations that get our kids excited, but don't, step away from traditionally who we are as Aggies.
There's a reason it's called a uniform.
Correct. Right? Correct. But it doesn't have to be, we don't have to wear the same home uniform.
Correct.
Every single game, the same exact pattern, the same exact way, right? We can mix some different color pants, some different color shirts, some different color helmets. It creates some different kind of rhythm.
Coming up on Saturday, 11:45, Texas A&M and McNeese at Kyle Field. We join you at 10:30 with our pregame show, and that is presented by St. Joseph Health. We will step aside, have more. The Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Come visit Costa Vida in South College Station for Baja-style Mexican, made from scratch daily, serving breakfast tacos, lunch, and dinner. Aggie-owned and operated. That is our friend Holly, and a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. We've got Miami checking in, Tulsa, Fort Worth, Brownswood, Crestview Hills, Kentucky. That's a first. And John is either in Costa Rica or Costa Riva. I'm not sure. I think it's a spelling mistake. John, or Juan in Costa Rica. We're back on Behind the Mic for that, along with Mike Elko. It's the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Charlie asks, was the Notre Dame secondary exceptionally good?
Yeah, I think you have to give them credit. I don't think we we don't ever live in a world where we say our failure came because of them, right? And so you certainly give them their credit. They had good players. We're going to see other secondaries that are good, that are going to have good players, and we're going to have to figure out how to execute better. Okay, defensive guy. How'd your defense play? That was a 13-13 game in the fourth quarter. Yeah, they know how hard I am on them. So, I thought at times we played well. I thought at times we played hard. Very, very disappointed that at 13-13 with the game on the line, we couldn't get the ball back to the offense one more time. And I think that's the expectation of a great defense. And, again, that's just part of the ownership of the whole thing, right? And so we had a chance on the 3rd and 5. We were really good all night. I think if we make that 3rd and 5 stop, we're in a different situation. But, unfortunately we didn't. And then I think we got a little bit loose in some of our run fits, and it ultimately cost us. But, I thought for the first time out there, through 3.5 quarters, I thought they played a really good game. You're watching guys like Will Lee III, and you're watching Marcus Ratcliffe, and you're watching Des Ricks, and Mo Bamba's playing, and they feel like they have been here forever. Yeah, right? and so it's funny, right? Because you have these kids that have come from a bunch of different places, and so I was actually joking with some of them, and no disrespect to any of the schools they came from, but I was talking to Trey Jones because he had that one big hit. He had the big hit on the triple threat Mo Bamba. He was the one that wound up getting the big tackle, and that was, I think, probably the loudest moment of the night in Kyle. And I said, hey, did that sound like what it was like last year at the Central Michigan game when you made that play? And he just kind of looked at me and gave me like one of those raw smiles. And so, there was a lot of kids that went out there on both sides of the ball playing in that environment for the first time, and I think a lot of them showcased themselves well. And you once again, when I said you don't know what you don't know, like, you dream of this, you've made your decision to come here, but you never really know. And to me, that's just got to fuel that fire of, okay, it's 107,000 of our, they're here for us, right? It's got to reinforce, at the very least, Mike, their decision. They made the right decision. No, for sure. And I think part of what makes this place so special, and we talked about this last week, is the tradition. It is the support. It is the fan base. It is how Aggies feel about Aggies. And we talked about that on Sunday, on Monday in the team meeting too, that that's the support that group provides needs to drive us through all of our down times, because that's who we're playing for, right? And in some way, shape, or form, that's part of what we have to get right, so that group walks out of there and they feel as though we appreciated what they gave us. Steve was not here last week. He's got 2 questions. We'll start with this one. When starting a new coaching job, what's more important, attitude or technique? Oh, gosh. When you're the first year, I think there's a list of about 30 things that are equally important that you're trying to get done. But I would say attitude is first and foremost. I think when you talk about what we're trying to do, is we're trying to put our blueprint on how we want to play the game of football, right? And that's so many levels. That's how we want to practice on a Tuesday morning. That's how we want to prepare. That's how we want to respond to a loss. That's how there's so many things that go into this program being what I would like it to look like, right? And I think the kids, again, trying doesn't get you a lot of points, but I do think the kids are trying to give us everything that they can. We've just got to push to get better results on Saturday. After a loss to Alabama on the Monday, the first practice, I vividly remember Buddy Johnson circling all the linebackers, and he told at that time Tyler Santucci, if you would just stand over here. And Buddy had a message for the linebackers. He said, if we're going to get better, stay. If we're not, there's the door. He said, and no hard feelings. That's why I asked you, in times like this, can leaders emerge? Because I thought that was exemplified. What now, Dallas Cowboy, by the way, Buddy Johnson. Yeah. Who was there? He was there. Jamani was there. Yep. Yeah, one of many members of those defenses when I was here. It was great to see a lot of those guys. But I think so. I think you're seeing it across the board. And again, we spent a lot of time building this culture. We spent 8 months coming together. We spent 8 months working. We're certainly not going to run away because one game didn't go our way. I have to pass this along. He also did something while he was here. He wasn't playing well, and Justin Matabike at the time, every break he was out and he was working. Every break. He never took a break. This week he is changing his name because of his Nigerian heritage. He will now be Nnamdi.
Madubuike. He just signed that huge contract with Baltimore. And Nnamdi means my father's son or my father's legacy in Nigerian. And I'm like, wow, you talk about that. I know you have a Michael. I have an Andrew. I think that's the greatest thing that a son can do for his father. But it's now Nnamdi Madubuike from now on. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad you pronounced that for me, because I actually read that. And I did not want to be the first one to pronounce that name for sure. But yeah, Nnamdi was a great player for us. Obviously, was there for our first 2 years of me being here as the defensive coordinator, and obviously he's doing phenomenal things in Baltimore right now.
Yeah, I just remember he was not happy with the start. It was like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm just going to work harder. And you could see him. He was off by his own, and no one said, oh, what do you do? Nope, they just. Yeah. Of course, not many.
Not
people
a lot of people. Yeah, not a lot of people went after Nnamdi and kind of asked him what he was doing. If he wanted to go work on his own, we just kind of let him do what he wanted to do sometimes.
Exactly right. This is the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We'll step aside and start focusing on the Aggies' next opponent. That's McNeese on Saturday at Kyle Field. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Rudy's is a proud sponsor of Aggie Football. Be sure to stop by your local Rudy's or visit rudys.com for some real Texas barbecue. Enjoy 100% oak smoke meats, delicious sides, and Rudy's signature sauce. And that is where we are. Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. It is the home for the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, presented by Capital Farm Credits. Cleveland, Ohio, Palmdale, California, Troy, Texas, Hewitt, Texas. They keep on checking in.
I'm gonna make sure we say Apex, North Carolina. I'm always gonna add Apex, North Carolina when we're at the show.
Apex, North Carolina. Do I have to lead with that?
You don't have to lead with it. You just gotta always throw it in there because that's where the Elko family resides.
And it's Apex, North Carolina now. From now on, you're a smart man. You know that. That electric atmosphere on Saturday, Mike, resonates not just for your program. There were a ton of recruits, but really all the programs on campus, correct? All the sports got a chance to have recruits there, did they not?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's football, right? Football is the front porch, and you know, we want to be a partner with every sport on this campus. And you know, Coach Chadwell had some golfers out this week at practice, and we were helping him recruit, and it's a partnership for sure. But I think when you really look at it, you know, we are the biggest stage. And so, you know, those moments, those opportunities, and getting this program where it should be, I think helps, and everyone can benefit from that for sure.
Teams coming out the tunnel. I look at the tunnel. There's Anderson Garcia and Solomon Washington from basketball leaning over the tunnel.
Yeah.
They're there, and then they showed Gavin Grahovac. And the reason why I say that about Gavin was throughout the baseball run, Ja'Day Walker, wearing number 9, always had something to tweet about baseball's number 9. Gavin Grahovac, you know, I love that when they support one another.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just part of that college culture, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, again, so much gets lost because we want NIL to have ruined everything, right? But I don't think that is here at Texas A&M. You know, he had Gavin Grahovac out at a practice. Did you? Yeah, he came out to a practice during fall camp. And so, I think that connection between athletes, because they're different. Like, their lives are different. The way they carry themselves is different, but they can bond together.
They absolutely understand what each other is going through. I don't care what the sport is, because there's a discipline to it.
Yeah, there's a discipline to it. There's a spotlight to it. There's you always got to be a little bit careful with how you conduct yourself and the company you keep, and you got to be a little bit on edge, because that's just the nature of being a high-profile athlete these days. And so, I think nobody understands that more than those guys when they get together.
After he left the podium on Monday, I asked Connor, I said, you were at all the baseball games. Was Jace Laviolette, his former teammate on those 12 teams, I said, was he here? He said, oh, you better believe it. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then,
makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they still have a good relationship. I think in part, I think Jace still tries to get Connor out to the baseball team, and secretly I've been trying to get to Jace to come out and play tight end for us a little bit. So I've been working behind the scenes on that one as well.
Can we be honest about this? Champions Council weekend, I made a joke with him after he spoke with everyone, and it was after run ruling Vanderbilt. You see Jace talking to Mike. And I'm like, well, I didn't realize tampering was going to happen on campus. And you said, I just wanted to tell him how much defensive ends can make.
Well, it's just everyone talks about that sweet swing he has, and I think there's some other skill sets he can maybe progress. But, I told Coach Early I would leave him alone. I think he's settled in on baseball now, and so I told Coach Early out of respect I'd let that one go.
Isn't it interesting, though, that you see a build like Jace? We've talked about this before. Those defensive ends that can bend and get that edge, a Malik Silla type build. It's not always the squat guys. It's almost like that outfield, the range, a power forward as well. That's kind of how the game of football has changed with the body sizes and the technique and what you can do, that you don't have to be 6'2", 300 any longer.
No.
You can really create some havoc.
For sure. And I think you look at guys like Malik Silla, you look at Cassius Howell, you look at Ryland Kennedy. Ryland Kennedy was a basketball player his whole life. And I spent 5 years in the state of North Carolina recruiting at Wake Forest and Duke, and I think that state is littered with those types of kids that were basketball, and then looked around one day and was like, okay, I'm a power forward and I'm 6'5", where do I go? And then they looked on the football field and they went, wow, I'm really tall if I go out there. And it's a little bit of what happened with Ryland Kennedy, and that's kind of Cassius Howell's background a little bit. He was an athlete that got into football, and so there's definitely that athleticism, that bend is something you need in those edge kids for sure.
Ryland's really come on, hasn't he?
Yeah, he is. He had a good night the other night. Again, another kid who went out there and really stepped into a big role for the first time.
Let's talk about the opponent when we come back in our final segment. McNeese on Saturday. It's the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, and it's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. When you need a new roof or just have a pesky leak, you want to call on the winning team at Schulte Roofing, home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee. Get the best. Visit SchulteRoofing.com. They're getting in just under the gun. Bedford, Pflugerville, Savannah, Georgia. And we love coming to Rudy's, but we've got to take this one on the road because Ripper Bella has just checked in. Howdy and ciao from the Italy A&M Club in Tuscany.
Wow.
We got to take this baby on the road.
I think it's a traveling circus in the spring. I think me and you, we pick some Aggie areas and we go have a blast.
We do coaches' night around the state. Now we got to go to Tuscany.
For sure.
We're going to get this done for sure. McNeese on Saturday. How do the Cowboys challenge you?
Yeah, I think they got a dual threat quarterback, a kid who played at Montana State last year and led them to the FCS championship. And so I think anytime you have a dual threat quarterback, that's always something that's scary. I think they've been kind of building. They've been really good on defense through 2 games this year. And I think, anytime you play this game, and I've been on the other side of this, you just know that they're going to come out and play their best football. They're going to play in this environment. It's going to be their one shot to play in front of 90,000 people. And, they're going to come out and they're going to play their best game for sure.
Almost like their bowl game, Mike.
It's just, I don't know if I would word it that way, but I just think everyone rises to occasions, right? I think that's just human nature. And so I think when you come into this stadium and you come into this environment, you're going to have a chip on your shoulder to prove that you belong. And again, I've been on the other side of this, and whether that was at Bowling Green, whether that was back at Hofstra in the day, and you know that they're going to come out and they're going to play their best. And then we talked about it today. This game has a weird way of humbling you if you don't respect it, right? And so you always have to respect the game of football. And I think our kids are handling it the right way this week.
And that goes back to what you said on Monday, and you have said a number of times. You play to your standard, not the scoreboard, correct?
No, for sure. And we know we have a lot to work on. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things that we talk about in terms of championship level football, they're quantitative internally. They're not based on the opponent, right? And so we talked about that a little bit today. We have some goals on offense about not beating ourselves and not dropping footballs, not missing open receivers, not having pre-snap penalties, not having pre-snap alignment problems, right? Those are all things that regardless of who we play, we control, right? And so whether it's Notre Dame, McNeese, Florida, those are all things we have to control. And on defense, it's assignment, it's effort, it's leverage, right? Those things are things that we control. And so there's always a game you're playing against yourself to find the best version of who you really are.
The running joke when I was still with the Spurs was the worst thing they could do was win sloppy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's no doubt.
You're not getting better.
No, and the hardest thing is to get kids to learn through success, right? That's an extreme challenge, and I would take that challenge tonight for sure. Don't get me wrong, but it's sometimes when you get hit with adversity, that's what creates the response that you're looking for.
Yeah, a couple of games under their belt as well for McNeese. So you talk about they can get maybe in a little bit of a rhythm where they're getting a little more comfortable with one another.
Yeah, I think so. They had a week 0 game where they got off to a slow start against Tarleton and then came storming back and almost finished it, and then they were able to go out and get a win last week and in a pretty impressive fashion over Southern. And so, I think it's going to be a challenge as we go into this one.
And you mentioned there may be some similarities to their defense. Looks a little bit like Texas A&M.
Yeah, so it's a unique path, I think. For those who remember, Coach Bradley Dale Pivotal wound up at UTEP, and I think he took pieces of this defense with him out there. And the secondary coach at UTEP is now at McNeese, and he just got there this offseason. And so when you put on the film, like, you literally see some really interesting pieces that resemble our defense, because they kind of are our defense in a lot of ways. And so, it's interesting. And a big back and a lot of receivers. Yeah. Correct, on offense? Yeah, 210-pound back who's averaging almost 6 yards a carry. And then they got a really interesting blend in the secondary and at wide receiver of some guys that have played a lot of football at the FCS level, but also some Division I transfers that have kind of gotten in there. And so, again, it's an opponent that we respect. But at the end of the day, and I told this to our guys, it wasn't about Notre Dame. It was about Texas A&M. It certainly won't be about McNeese. It'll be about Texas A&M, and it won't be about any of the teams we play moving forward. It'll always be about us. You're still going to have to look at some other tendencies from others, but now you can get into the point where, okay, we've got 2 weeks of film, as opposed to, like you sasaid last week, we got to go see Clemson and FIU and all that, right? Yeah, so it has been nice to actually watch McNeese this week, as opposed to a whole bunch of other teams that we weren't actually going to play. But as you start to get into this rhythm of the season, and then I think we hit a little bit of a stretch where there's a little bit more volume of tape on the people that we're playing against, and so it'd be interesting to see where it goes. Yeah, those tendencies certainly do come out. This has been an absolute blast. Appreciate it. We will see you I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. But we'll see you on Saturday when McNeese comes in and beat the hell out of the Cowboys. Yeah, for sure. And thank you again for everybody who coming out tonight. We appreciate you guys always. Thanks for gigging. Thank you, Coach. Yep. Appreciate you as always. You bet. He is Mike Elko. Hey, on Saturday, it is the Aggies and the McNeese Cowboys. They come in at 1-1, losing to Tarleton, and they defeated Southern last week. It was actually a blocked kick that turned a 7-0 deficit, and that they scored the next 21 points to win 21-7 over Southern. We will join you at 10:30 with our pregame show. That is presented by St. Joseph Health. We will hear from Connor Wigman. We will hear from Marcus Ratcliffe, and Will Johnson will have a one-on-one with Will Lee III. And then the kick will come at 11:45, the Aggies and McNeese from Kyle Field. Our engineer here at Rudy's of the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, presented by Capital Farm Credit, is Kevin Menchow. The producer is the one and only Tony O'Neill. I'm Andrew Monaco. For head coach Mike Elko, we thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, presented by Capital Farm Credit. We thank you so much for joining us. Thanks and gig 'em.